Good Vach Shvatov. We are learning Mishna Gittin, Parak Ches, Chapter 8, Mishnah Vav, Mishnah 6. Okay, an introduction. When a man died, this is something that we've mentioned many, many times before, but we need to go through all the details in order to be able to, get through the next Mishnah. When a man dies without children, there is a mitzvah for his brother to marry his widow, which means to perform yibum, or to release her from his bond through the ceremony of chalitza. So if he dies without children, so his wife is bound, for yibum or chalitza to his brother until anything happens. She's not going to be able to marry anybody. Meaning yibum means she marries the brother-in-law. If he wants to release her, then she can marry somebody else. Okay, but otherwise there's going to be this yibum bond. An exception to this rule is where the widow is related to the brother in a way that makes her forbidden to marry him. For instance, she is his wife's sister. If two guys marry two sisters and one guy died without children, right? So now if his wife is falling to his brother, but she is the brother's wife's sister, she's an erva. He can't marry her. Okay, such a woman is known as an erva. An erva is exempt from the mitzvah of yibum, does not need chalitza either. She's free. Moreover, if there were two wives and one of them was an erva, both widows are exempt from yibum and chalitza. Meaning, if the brother who is alive, who the sister-in-law falls to, has another wife, so the same way he cannot do the same way the brother who died. Sorry, mistake. So let's get the case. Okay, Reuben and Shimon are brothers. They married Rachel and Leah. Okay. Now let's say Shimon is married to Leah. Shimon dies without children. Leah now falls to Yibam to Reuven, but that can't happen because Rachel, his wife, is a sister of the sister-in-law falling to him. So there's no yibum, no yibum at all. You don't need anything. If Shimon had another wife who is not a relative, she's not an erva. The same way her co-wife is exempt from yibum and chalitza, so is she. That's called tsaras erva, the co-wife of the erva. You've got the erva, the relative that's falling to yibum, and you have the co-wife that's falling to yibum. Because if a man dies without children, yibum can be done on any one of the wives, or chalitza can be done on any one of the wives, and the other one's exempt. So in this case, though, where one of them is an erva, and there's no yibum bond to her, there is no yibum bond to her either to the co-wife, even though the co-wife was not a relative. Okay? Now, our Mishnah discusses a case where a man with two wives died without children. One of these wives was an erva to his brother, making both her and her co-wife exempt from yibum. The co-wife then went and married out of the family, which there was no problem. But it was later discovered that the erva wife, right, the one who was the cause for all these yibum bonds, right, was an islandess. An islandess means, right, that she is a girl whose body fails to develop typical female characteristics and who therefore can never have children. If you marry a woman who lands up being an islandess, you can claim the whole marriage was a mistake. And the marriage was never a marriage to begin with. So if the erva comes out being an islandess, which means that the erva was never really married to the brother, the woman that we refer to as the co-wife wasn't a co-wife, she was the only wife. And she married which means there was a yibum bond to her, which means she married out of the family when she wasn't allowed to. It's a law, it's a prohibition. It's a prohibition for a woman to marry out of the family without chalitza. So what happens here is that everybody kind of went about their business thinking that they can do this, but then it comes out that they couldn't. So what happens then? So let's read the Mishnah. Regarding all the relatives that the sages said that not only are they not bound to Yibam and permitted to marry out of the family, their co-wives are also permitted to. Tsaraseyan means their co-wives are also permitted to. All right. So that's regarding that scenario. These co-wives we just referred to went and married out of the family. But now it comes out that these, meaning the relatives that were forbidden, the sister-in-law who was an erva, who you thought was married to the brother, was never married to the brother because she comes up being an islandess. Which means now that Sarah, the co-wife, went ahead and married out of the family when she wasn't allowed to. Okay? So let's just read here. If a man marries a girl without realizing she is an islandess, they are not considered married, because the marriage was based on a mistake. Had he known she was an islandess, he never would have married her. Therefore, if it is discovered after the husband dies that the erva, meaning the relative, is an islandess, that's the case here, the relative, the sister-in-law, that we thought was an erva, she is an erva, but she thought she was married to the brother and fell to Yibam, didn't happen, because she was never married. It turns out that she was never legally married to her husband, and she did not exempt the co-wife from Yibam or Chalitza. The co-wife was thus not permitted to marry someone else. But she did. So what happens now? Says the Mishnah, Teitze mizeh mizeh, she has to leave both of them. And all the ways that we mentioned before, all those penalties that we mentioned before about the woman who married with the not kosher get, apply to this woman also. Okay, so now, she married out of the family she wasn't allowed to. So we say, Teitze mizeh mizeh. So theoretically, she should be able to go ahead and go for Yibam to the brother. The brother should be able to do Yibam now on her. She wasn't a co-wife of an erva. She fell to Yibam. If he wants to go do Yibam on her, he should be able to. There it says he can't. Because once she went and married out to somebody else, so it's considered, which she wasn't allowed to do. So I'll call it similar to adultery. It's not exactly adultery. It's similar to adultery. And well, we'll see about that. But let's call it right now similar to adultery. And therefore, she cannot marry the brother. The brother who she really is connected to Yibam for, she can't marry him. Okay? Now, but she can't marry him, but she can't marry him because she married out when she wasn't supposed to. But that can't free her just from the Yibam bond. The fact that he may not do a Yibam to her doesn't necessarily free her from a Yibam bond. Meaning at least Chalisa has to be done. And therefore, this woman is going to have to, again, she cannot have Yibam marry the first brother. She's going to need Chalitza. She can't stay married to the second one because she wasn't allowed to marry him. And therefore, we don't allow her to go ahead and stay married to him. But she's going to need a get from him. She'll need a get. Because at the end of the day, she is married to this person. Let me just read it here. Let me just see. She, the co-wife who remarried, must leave this one and that one. That is, she must get divorced from her second husband and may not marry her first husband's brother in Yibam. Rather, she must get Chalitza. Okay? Now we say, and all these ways, meaning everything stated before, all the penalties are going to happen now. Meaning this woman, right, who went in and married the second husband, all the penalties mentioned before regarding a woman who gets married without a kosher get, that she's forbidden to the first husband, forbidden to the second husband, she loses her ksuba, she loses everything, and any children from them from this point are considered a mamzer. Remember? That's what he said. If she got married with this not kosher get, her children from the second husband are a mamzer. If she were to go ahead and have a child from the first husband now, after she remarried after she got the get and remarried the second husband, a child from the first husband would be a mamzer. And the Mishnah seems to be saying that here too. Seems to be saying that if she had a Yibam bond to the first brother because she really wasn't the co-wife of an erva, and she marries a second man, and she has a child's a mamzer. And if she goes ahead and has Yibam with the first husband, child's a mamzer. Okay, that's what it sounds like. That's what it seems to be saying. Now, in order to be able to even apply this, we have to say the following about this co-wife. Although it cannot be known for sure that a woman is an islandess until she reaches a certain age, that's the halacha. You cannot establish her as an islandess until she reaches a certain age. I don't remember what that age is. I think it's 20. I'm not sure. But right. So which means that when the co-wife married out of the family, right? So you look at her. You look at the other wife. She seemed fine, or she's not an islandess for sure yet. So what did she do wrong by marrying out? It looked like everything was fine. Nonetheless, even before that age, she will show some signs of being a possible islandess. There are already certain signs that are there. You can't establish it for sure, but there are certain signs there. The co-wife is therefore penalized because she should not have remarried. Because she should not have remarried without performing chalitza until she knew for sure that the erva was not an islandess. Meaning she's taking a chance. She already sees there are signs there, right? It's possible she's going to be one, and therefore she shouldn't be taking the chance of marrying out of the family. And you see, so therefore, and it's actually possible that a woman could have some of those early signs of an islandess and not be an islandess. It's possible. But so therefore, this woman, again, but in this case where if she would be an islandess, she would not be able to marry into the family. She should not have done so without without waiting, because she's taking a chance. She took the chance, therefore she's penalized. However, one important factor here, a factor regarding the fact that we say that the children are a mamzer. Now, the thing is like this. So this woman, she really was connected to Yibam, to her husband, to the brother, and she married out. That's forbidden to do. She's not a married woman. It's not like she committed full-fledged adultery because she's really married to the first guy. There is a law. It's a prohibition. It's a prohibition to go. It's a prohibition to marry out of the family without a chalitza. Now let her do it. It's only a lav. Now, typically, if a person, we assume that if you marry a woman who is only prohibited because of a lav, there's no chorus, there's no death penalty involved, then she's not an erva. She's not an erva, then you're not allowed to be married, but the child born from that marriage wouldn't be a mamzer. However, Rabbi Akiva holds that that when it comes to marriage to a lav, if a person has a child from a woman that he wasn't allowed to marry with, even just with a prohibition, child's a mamzer. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. So when the Mishnah here says she has to leave both, and all the ways apply to her, which means the children would be a mamzer, which means the child from the second husband would be considered a mamzer. Child from the first husband would for sure be a mamzer because she's married to the second guy. But even a child from the second husband would be a mamzer, because according to Rabbi Akiva, a child born from a marriage, that there is a lav, just a prohibition, also the child's a mamzer. So if our Mishnah says everything applies in this case, that means following Rabbi Akiva. But we don't paskin like Rabbi Akiva. And therefore, the child from the second marriage, even though it was a forbidden marriage, would not be a mamzer. A wonderful day. Ketevach Shavuot Tov.